trust. Without the proof, it turns to dust. Build it open.
Look at that. Wolfgang is here immediately. Always ready. Always early. What a legend. Let's get some announcements out. Let's remind everyone. Let's remind the team. Got some of the team popping in now. Got some of the builders popping in. Metasudo, I'm going to invite you up. Kylan, I'm going to invite you up for now as well. Luda. We're going to get all the builders up here. What's up, Metasudo? What's up, Kames?
What's happening, Woods?
Oh, just trying to get out some announcements. Thanks for joining us. Hey, for those of you in the community, in case you didn't read yet, we are going to run this call slightly different than the past couple. We're going to have a little bit less to present here in the beginning. Leave this more of an open floor time for you guys to chat, ask questions, bring things up. Let's work through things. So you have a few minutes. If you weren't prepared, now you are prepared. Think of some things that you need to work through, and let's work through them together today.
Woohoo! And if it's light, Kylan, you and I could just brainstorm.
Yeah.
It seems like it's a light crowd today, but that's all good.
And I'm putting out one last announcement here as well. See who else we can grab in. I see Fung Bill down on the chat, Jenny, Pulse. Luda, you're welcome to come up if you get some time. Thanks for jumping in. We'll notify the team as well. All right. So a little light. We could give another minute for a few more people to jump in. I see Giannis just made it. G Trust. But I don't know. I think we could go ahead and kick it off. All right. Welcome back, everybody. GM, Caleb in the chat. Welcome back to the Semantic Engineering Community Calls. This is call number 3. These are bi-weekly. The last 2 in the beginning, we started off by us walking through some things, whether it was intuition IDs or intuition core, different packages related conversations. I know Kames has a couple of things he wants to talk about here today, but in general, we're going to try and flip it today and have this call belong the majority to you guys, to everyone here building. So if you're modeling something on the graph, if you're building an app, if you're just fighting with a triple that you just can't figure out how to structure it, that's really the agenda here, right? Bring it up here, share your screen if you want. Kames is here to give some answers. We've got other people from the team jumping in. They'll be able to help give answers as well. So I'll be here moving the mic, helping out where I can. But let's go ahead and open the floor. Kames, you've got something sharing on GitHub right now. What's going on your screen?
I do indeed. And just before kicking off, just want to make sure you guys can hear me all right. Sometimes my mic is a little funky on Discord, but
I hear you great.
Cool, perfect. All right, yeah, so what I have pulled up is our latest PR for our new packages repo. And what I hope to do today is kind of run through what we got going on, what are some of the differences, what are we introducing, and then how devs can start using it. So before jumping into that though, I do want to provide just a little bit of context and look back into the past. So what I have pulled up right now is Intuition TS, or TypeScript. And this is what we have as of today, right? These are our public packages that we present to the developer community. Many of you guys have probably used these, but they're very light, right? It's only a couple. There's GraphQL, Protocol, and SDK. There's almost no opinion of how you should shape atoms, like how you should retrieve them, shape them in your backend, that sort of thing. And so for a long time, our tooling was just like write to the chain, read from the chain, read from our API, and that was about it. But why I say that is because this change is going to introduce a lot of the differences in terms of how the packages are shaped, and then what are we going to provide to developers as opposed to just like the core tools. And so this PR is at packages. If you guys want to check it out. And what I'm going to do is jump in and kind of give you a lay of the land of what's going on. So as you guys start to use these packages and move with us towards this IID specification, which is intuition identifiers, and want to access more of that data, shape it, etc. These are the packages you're going to want to look at. And so I think the first thing to kind of point out and recognize that what we're doing differently from the past is we have a lot more packages now. So before everything was kind of bundled together, but now our focus is much more modular. And so why we're doing this for a couple of reasons. One, because it's just a better developer experience. You only have to pull in what you need. So for example, before, if you wanted to generate IDs, you needed to download our entire SDK. But if you just need to do IDs, say for verification, run some checks, or you're building maybe a small script, you can just pull in the ID packages. And why I'm pointing this out, because this is a theme for the rest of this repo, is modular, take only what you need, take the parts that are valuable to you, and then leave the rest. So let me jump back a little bit. So starting from the top, I want to kind of go into what we have for IID, or the intuition identifier, and work our way up from there in terms of how these packages are shaped and what they would be useful for. So if you were on the call last week, we introduced this new concept called the intuition identifier. And the goal of this spec is to be able to align on what gets saved on chain to represent an atom. For a long time, we had many different approaches. You could upload an IPFS URI, you could upload a raw JSON object, you could do a ton of different stuff. But now what we're doing is we are aligning atoms to be as simple as possible, but still be able to infer what they are. So instead of it being an IPFS URI or a JSON object, what you're now seeing on the screen is examples of different atoms that are represented depending on the schema. So this first one is for an Ethereum address on...
Okay, real quick, do you mind increasing the font size by a level or two? Yes. There we go. Cool, thank you.
Great call. Of course, I should remember screen shares. Cool, hopefully that's a bit better. And so what you're seeing here is different representation of atoms. Here's another one with music. And so what the IID package does well and only is it enforces the shape of these atom strings, right? So if you're dealing with a lot of data, you're creating atoms from different sources, we want to have it be deterministic to get to the atom you need. And so for whatever reason, maybe you construct the wrong shape, or you just want to actually make sure you're aligning with everyone else, you pull in this package, and anytime you make an ID, you can say, all right, this is the correct one. It passes regex, it passes pattern matching, and you know if you create this atom, it will be supported by the backend system, right? So this is the value of this, is like if atoms are saved in this way, the rest of the system knows what to do with that. It can infer the type, it can infer classification, it can go get artifacts. So it's just really important to have the ID shaped in the right way. And so quickly, right after that, we go to, packages, IDs, IID ladder. So the past package assumed you knew what the ID was and you were just checking it. So now what the IID ladder does is it allows you to pass in whatever information you have about an atom and get output an IID. And so why this is important is because atoms, they have multiple tiers of how they can be classified. So say, for example, a song ideally has an ISRC code. This is the universal code used by almost any application or someone in the music industry. You can always find a song this way. But sometimes, say someone publishes a song not traditional way, they're not in a catalog, they may not have an ISRC. We still want to be able to make an atom for that song. And so what we do is we can pass in the name, we can pass in other metadata. And what this will attempt to do is, based off of all the information you've given it, it will attempt to create the best atom ID it can. And by best, I mean it infers and the least amount of duplication. So instead of having to think about like, hey, what should my Atom ID be? Do I have all the right information? We try to make it as easy as possible. Just give the API what you have. It'll run through everything and spit out an IID. Since I can't ask everyone, is that making sense? I'm going to do a proxy and ask Kylan. So far, is this making sense to you?
Yeah, I think it's making sense so far. Yes. I guess two questions. The first one, wrong. It sounds like that's like a confidence kind of.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I think that makes sense. So we can call it, and if it's strong, then maybe we take it. If it's weak, then maybe we don't. Where do you expect? I mean, maybe you're getting to this, but where are you expecting us to put this IID? Is this going to be like in the data field for an atom, or like the name, or do you expect us to add another property to JSON objects specifically for the IID?
Yeah, really great question. And so we expect it in multiple locations. So first and foremost, this ID that I'm highlighting, this is what we would expect to go on chain. So this would be when you create Atom, that would be the data field. What you may also do though is if you create a JSON object, because when you create an Atom, you can still add context to it. You can add different pointers, you can add references, and this allows us to provide some context. You may create a JSON object and actually put the name of the song and also include this identifier, and then upload that to IPFS and kind of like attach that to the Atom creation as a like sidecar kind of pointer, and then you can do that later. So that's the on-chain part. The other one is if you never get to the on-chain and you're only focused on off-chain, you want to save this in your database, because this is if you ever expose your API, if you ever want to coordinate with other services, this will be the ID that you can use to coordinate, as well as to generate the Atom ID and make triples off of. So this ID essentially becomes the canonical source, and this is where you want to write it on-chain, off-chain, and kind of everywhere in between.
And when you said pointers, by that you mean like an actual triple, an on-chain triple?
So a little bit different. We briefly touched on this last week, and we haven't gotten this audited yet, but what we're doing on the multi-vault is adding a additional function to create an Atom. And we're adding one extra field. It's basically an array of strings that you can add to this Atom. And what this allows you to do is during creation, without changing the ID, you could add a pointer to IPFS. You could add a pointer to Arweave if you expect to continually add snapshots of metadata around that Atom. You could point to a private server. And so it just essentially gives you flexibility as a developer to say, hey, I want to create this Atom, but maybe I want to opt into a different system because we, Intuition Core, have not built the solution you need. This allows you to add extra data that you may want and to use in your app, or potentially even propose a new standard or approach during creation. It's a bit flexible, but it's during that Atom creation moment that you get that ability to add that pointer. Hopefully that wasn't too much info and added the right context though.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I remember you mentioning those last week.
Yep. Cool. Before moving, any other questions on this? Just the IID ladder, or you think it's coming across good? Cool.
Seems like it's coming across good. No questions in the chat. No hand raises.
Sweet. So the next one I want to go over is this IID registry. So part of this kind of separation of concerns is now Atoms get created as simple as possible, whereas before we were uploading schema.org classifications directly to IPFS. If you've used Portal, a lot of the Atoms are things, some of them are persons, and some of them are companies, but a majority of the time it's thing. But part of our initiative over these last couple of months is to greatly expand what can be classified within Intuition, specifically our backend systems and what we're supporting. So as I mentioned last week, we have this schema.org file that has a lot of documents. We pulled in basically every schema from schema.org and provide that as a source that you can reference if you want to create those type of Atoms. But what this does is it now introduces a problem where the intuition identifier is distinct and separate from these classifications. And so if I create a song that's int ISRC 10, yes, I can kind of infer that's a song, but like, how do I shape that data in my backend? What are the exact fields I should use? How should I return it to my front end? That sort of thing. And so what we're trying to do with IID registry, right here, is basically associate intuition identifiers with known schemas. And so this is where I mentioned last week is this allows anybody to have an opinion of how the data should be shaped. But what intuition is doing is providing an initial opinion. So we're saying, hey, we've thought about this for a long time. Like, here are some best practices that we think will help scale your app kind of easily. You don't have to worry about the lower level details. And so what we've done is associated ISRC, that identifier, to the schema.org music recording. And so because of that, suddenly our backend system can know what shape to return the data in, what triples it needs to monitor, that sort of thing. And so this will work across kind of all different classifications, whether it's books, movies, TV series. You always want to be able to infer from the ID ultimately what data you need to go fetch around it. So for example, if I have an ISRC Atom, I know it's a song, so I should probably go to Spotify, and I should probably go to Apple Music, and I should probably go to Music Brains. And what this then allows you to do is automate all that. So like, as your backend is processing these different atoms, it's looking at the ID, it infers its classification, it goes, okay, I know what general shape this data should be, let me go to the known providers. And this is everything. We are going to be publishing a lot of this foundation, so people don't have to rethink through it. We've made all these lines, these connections, and will allow the system kind of just hydrate itself. All right, I'm going to pause there and Kylan use you as a proxy again. What do you think? Is that making sense? Any questions?
Sorry, I had to find my window. Yeah, I think it's making sense. I guess one question is, when will this? So this is a library, or you're also talking about how atoms are going to be treated on the indexer, or?
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
when will these changes be in the indexer, I guess is my question.
So part of it is already in. We have a PR that uses these latest packages that's bringing support for this. So hopefully within the next week or two, we're going to finalize this, get this ready for production, and you will be able to see in real time how this stuff works. So coming soon. And if you want to get a sneak peek, definitely feel free to just jump into the PR. You should be able to run it right now if you wanted to, get in hacker mode. Yeah, and so I think I'll just stay on that topic a little bit more, because this is such a fundamental shift of kind of how to think about intuition, how to understand how our backend system is working. But essentially, what we've done is these packages are everything that we've been building over the last couple of months of how do you scale an application seriously? How do you have all these different interpretation engines? How do you have that backend system kind of be as automated as possible? And so what we're trying to do as quickly as possible is give you guys these tools so you can see what's going on, what's happening, and potentially shape your apps in this direction. But the important thing, and let me see if we even have it in this code base real quick. Sorry, just give me 1 sec. Yeah, so if you go to packages and you go to Atom Enrichment and Atom Rules Engine, this is where we've added a lot of different providers where I was just talking about hey, I need to go get Apple Music, or I need to go get Spotify. And so what we've done is built all these little plugins that know based off of what ID gets passed to it. Sorry, let me go to maybe it's index. Yeah. So what this does, essentially, you pass it an ID, you pass its classification, and all you need is an API key, and suddenly your backend system will go to third parties. It'll pull enrichments, it'll pull metadata, and your backend gets hydrated. And so if anybody hasn't looked at the backend system, that's essentially what we're aiming for. Where before, all we did was index atoms. That's all you got. Where now it's the next step where it's not only do you index atoms, but you go out into the world and you add context to it. You give your users more data. Maybe you even build niche apps around it. And we just want that part to be as easy as possible because it's fairly complicated. So anyways, hopefully Is that helpful, Kylan, of like a little bit where Intuition Core is going and packages and how this all comes together?
Yeah, I think my one question then for this plugin is how does it know where to fetch the extra data for? Are we going to be able to put in our custom plugins? Like if I said, oh, for these types of atoms, we might want to grab some data from Wikidata. Is that something where, like, is that how the plugins work?
100%. So they are designed in a way that everybody has obviously has different needs, and you want to be able to update the backend to do that. All you have to do is go make a small plugin. You can register in your own backend, and it'll automatically pick it up and start parsing. And so we have a structure, we have a fairly defined template of how to set up these plugins. You just have to do types for inputs and outputs, and then you can do whatever you want for the data fetching. But it's exactly that. This system is designed to, like, eventually, right, we scan the entire web. Maybe there's like plugins for everything. We just can't build it alone, so that's why, we definitely want to make this open source so everybody can contribute, and basically Intuition, the node, gets better and better for everybody the more that these plugins are built.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's really good. The enrichment is really good. Once someone's using their own indexer, then if we have all the data and the enrichment data as well on our own relational database, then doing inference on it is like you get a lot more yield out of it. So this is really good.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's our same thought too, right? Is like, unless you add this context, you add this rich data, there's a ceiling to intuition, right? Like, there's only so much value you can provide, or like everything has to be represented as a triple, and it's like very difficult to scale an information product that way. And so we, realize that like this is such a big part of it that we need to make this readily available. We need to make this easy to contribute to, because we're not going to be the only one with this problem. In fact, it's probably everybody, right? It's like, how do you get extra data about atoms? How do you make them useful? And this is one big part of that, is just fetch off-chain data and do it in a way that's easy and deterministic. Okay, that does about bring us to everything, the main stuff I wanted to go through. We can probably open it up for questions. Or actually, there's one more that I do want to run through. It's protocol. Or maybe it's primitive. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah, so another one is the primitives. So everything was modular, but what I just want to point out is primitives is probably where you will end up. We're going to bring a lot of this together. So if you do just want one package, it's going to be in primitives. It's how you can build IIDs. It's how you can build the metadata around it. It's how you can validate it. So that was just like the final one I wanted to show off. If you don't want a modular approach, we are still going to provide something that exposes everything you need in one package. Yes, and on that note, I think I'll pause it here, because I think this is the time to open up for questions, whether it was about these packages or just like in general, people are whatever they're building. I think we definitely want to open the floor to that and use this time as well. So I will pause the stream and Woods, pass it back off to you a little bit and figure out what we want to do next.
Cool. Well, thanks for walking us through that, Kames. There's some cool information there, and even some people chatting about it over in the side chat. Pixie pointing out that this really is like a huge fundamental shift. But yeah, as Kames said, we want to open the floor to all of you building. I know we've got Kylan up here right now, who's always working quite a bit on HiveMind, always has some really good questions, really deep questions as well, whether it's on these calls or offline. But for any of you in the audience, if you've got anything that you're working on, have any questions related to building in Intuition, now's the time. Let's talk about it. Let me know in the chat. I'll bring you up and you can actually talk. You can send messages in the chat. But until we get some more people over, let me kick it off and pass it to Kylan. Kylan, what have you been working on recently? And is there anything you've got that you wanted to make sure we talk about?
So now this is actually pretty relevant. I don't want to derail the conversation too much if other people have questions, but I'm trying to figure out what I've been doing is for social media, I've been using an immutable ID URL like for X, but the problem is those atoms when they show up in other people's dApps, it just shows up as a URL. So it doesn't tell you who they are, what their avatar is, username, human name. So I think I'm considering migrating towards using JSON objects instead. But I guess I don't know how would I say this? I don't know if we've decided on a convention for social media accounts yet. And it's not like there's a universal ISBN for them. So I'm still trying to figure out the best way to do it. But I think I'm going to be doing something like a JSON object. There will be something in there for the immutable ID. Yeah, I don't know if that is affected by what you guys are doing, but it's something that I have to start thinking about at least.
I mean, I think that's a really important highlight, just like for the meta-analysis of it, which is you are creating atoms for your app, and it's showing up in atoms in a way that there's no context, right? There's no value. And I would like to highlight this because I think this is one of the problems we need to solve with Intuition Core, meaning like not are you running your own service, but you are potentially exposing the API for atoms that you have done custom. So the same way we are providing schemas and a way to like hook in and get data, it'd be ideal if every person who's running Intuition node can also expose their atom. So if another app does want to use the same schemas as yours and that you haven't used the canonical ones, they would be able to hydrate their own app. So I don't know quite what that looks like yet. Like if our Intuition core like servers need to communicate with each other, if there's going to be some link between them. But I think this illustrates like one of the biggest problems that need to be solved, which is like how do you share these schemas and atoms that may be different in every different app. One, we got to align them, but two, if that's not the case, how do we kind of solve that problem? And so I just want to point out, like, ideally, kind of we get you more and more into Intuition Core, we get you a little bit closer to like IIDs for social accounts. We don't have the answer yet, but like we do need something that works for both you and I, and everyone else. So I just want to point that out. Like this, we have to solve this problem together as a team, and hopefully we can do that in Intuition Core.
Yeah, and I think we can still come up with something, whether it's a Intuition ID or not. Gosh, what was I going to say? Yeah, I'm trying to think here. Yeah, it's tricky because with something like an X API, it actually costs quite a bit of money. I guess that's a question. How are you guys? Are all these APIs free, or did how when we're fetching the metadata, for example?
Yeah, so some of these are free, some of them are not. And I think that also highlights the importance of like being able to share your data, right? If we pay a penny for every request, we don't want everyone else in the Intuition network to then have to go pay a penny, right? So we want to broadcast like the artifacts that we've saved. But another thing that I want to point out is you mentioned you're trying to save JSON objects for the atom instead of this URL. That is a great opportunity to use the new create atom flow. So instead of changing the ID, which is nice because it's simple, it's pure, exactly the website, is you would use still as the data field, but any extra metadata that you wanted to provide, such as their name, their avatar, you could still throw that in the URI field, either as just a JSON object or first upload it to IPFS. And so that is one of the problems we're trying to solve, where it's like you want to keep the atom simple, but you still have to provide some context, right? Like who is this person? You would do it in that new field.
And you're also saying though that we could do so theoretically also for a JSON object, we could just have. I'm trying to think here. So the JSON object itself. So it would either be a JSON LD or it'd be an IPFS JSON. The actual identifier, like if there's a JSON object and we want to put the Intuition ID specifically somewhere in there, what is the key? I assume there's a convention for which key we use, right? Like, is it literally like, does that make sense? I think in your code you might have showed. So just because there's like name, URL, image description, is there a specific property key that we are reserving specifically for the intuition ID that you mentioned earlier today?
Yeah, so a couple of things there. So one, on my screen, I'm pulling up the old way of creating atoms and the new one, just so there's a little bit more of a visual and it's easy to understand. So in our multi-vault, we have this function called create atoms, and normally you just pass in this data field, right? Everyone's used to this. This is where this is how you create atoms. But what we're introducing is this URI ones. And so I want to demonstrate, like before, you would have uploaded this IPFS URI, right? This is what you're doing right now. This is what happens in Portal. But instead, what you would do is upload the ID, whether it's the intuition identifier one or the one that you've chosen. And then in this URIs field is where you could still put that IPFS reference. You could put IPFS, you could put a JSON object, you could even do a link back to their original Twitter, right? It can be anything. And so it's kind of up to you, or it's up to the community. I would propose if we upload data through the URI, we should probably still use like a schema.org classification, so we all know that, like, hey, if I go read some of these URIs, there are some standards there. And I think that's just part of our alignment. We got to get, on the forms, we got to say, hey, we're going to use this URI field in this way, and just follow this spec. But we could, and that's a conversation to be had in terms of like, where do these fields go and what do we use?
Okay, so this is going to be a smart contract change as well, right?
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Cool. I know we'd like jump back into my update, but apologies.
I really wish the Sophia guys were here too, because I know they've done quite a bit around social accounts. I feel like they might have some input too, but some good people to circle back with in the future, since we don't have them live.
Yeah, we will be posting, I think, in the next like 2 weeks, more of how we're going to do IIDs for things like social accounts and persons. Right now, we've done the ones that are very easy, like songs, books, recordings, but our next phase for us is to do a little bit more of the complicated ones. So I just want to point out, like, we will also be publishing something shortly. So hopefully, we can align soon, because I know there's like 3 of us kind of doing all different things, and yeah, it's a little tough.
Yeah, I think as long as it's clear, it'll help to let us know like what can and cannot be. I know you're gonna clarify this stuff. You already kind of have, but yeah, it sounds like a lot of it will come down to, okay, what needs to be unique and what doesn't. That's a big part of it.
Yes, definitely. It's unique, and it's also like a person could be represented on Twitter, on Instagram, on like all these other places. And so like we can solve the problem of the ID. That's generally easy. It's like, how do you associate multiple atoms or representations of a person as one? That's where it starts to get complicated, and kind of where the most coordination needs to happen.
Yeah. Hey, so I just realized something. So when you have those plugins, I know you said you weren't sure how it was going to work specifically, but it sounded like you were giving developers the opportunity also to become their own, I guess, enricher endpoints.
Yeah. Yep.
Or like if for me, obviously, like if I'm doing social and I'm really focused on x.com and it costs a lot of money, then theoretically I could open up an endpoint on my server.
Yep.
Have the plugin in this repo point to mine. Yeah, it's a little tricky, but it's definitely doable.
And so our goal, and first comment is I see a couple of people got their hands raised. Maybe we let them up. And then the other one is like, we also want to solve these problems at low level, meaning that we want it to be a config that you can either expose your data or not. So instead of having to like fork Intuition Core and be like, I'm deciding to expose enrichments, we want to design this in a way where like you can build your own app, and if you are ever incentivized to turn on your data, or you just want to be a team player, it's like a click of a button, as opposed to like, oh man, how do I go architect this? Because our incentive is to make it as easy as possible for everyone to coordinate. And so like that really is P0 for us, problem number 1. And so we do want to make that easy, just to note that.
Cool. So we're working through quite a bit. I saw another one of our builders, Archris, jump in He's in the audience as of a few minutes ago. Just a shout out to him and to others. If you are building on intuition, if you have any questions about how to build, or maybe you've hit a blocker, some sort of roadblock, feel free to jump up and ask, or shoot a message in the chat. We'll get you an answer. We'll get you unblocked. Kylan, outside of those things, did you have anything else that you had at the top of your mind that you wanted to chat about? Needed to think through, or get some other people thinking through?
Give me a few minutes. I'll do some brainstorming here.
Cool. Sounds good.
So-
Kames. Oh yeah.
One thing I can bring up that's kind of important is, like, I know, Kylan, you recently posted about like comments and a few other things. So we've been talking mostly about atoms right now and just what the shape of atoms. But another important thing that we are working on is a rule set or spec for how to shape triples. So meaning, like, if we want to share a comment structure and it works comments across our app, Kylan, your app, and any other building on intuition, you generally want to use the same intuition triple structure, because then the backend knows how to infer that. And so there's a few that we have coming up. We call them like core action predicates, things like bookmark, things follow, an emote reaction, comment. So I just want to give a heads up for anybody who's like thinking, how do you shape data? How do you do triples? Because that's another big part of this equation. Is in the next couple of weeks we will also be publishing that is like semantic rules for triples, so we can solve finally this problem of comments and like have comments look the same or be interpreted the same across different apps. So if anybody, I bring that up in case anybody else is working on comments or has features like emotes or reactions in their app. Now would be the time, maybe just bring that up or share if any other action core to your app that you think should be in that bucket. Would love to hear it.
When are you guys planning on sharing the details of like the semantic and triple structure for comments specifically?
Yeah, we internally we finalized everything. We just need to get it ready for publishing. So I would expect probably in the next 2 weeks or so, we'll get something on GitHub, and then we'll get something on the forums, and then people can both either use the code and contribute to the conversation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? And if you don't want to come up, feel free to chat as well. If you want to just drop the chat. Or
Yeah, I
I'll
haven't.
just shout G-Trust for the next 40 minutes.
Yeah, I haven't seen anything in the chat yet, eliciting as much as I can. I know. I know a lot of times it's like, you're working through something and you come up with a question in the middle of working, and then maybe you don't make a note about it. Maybe the note's scrambled away somewhere in some old note. Definitely gotta make sure we're all in the habit of, like, when any sort of questions come up in the middle of building, make a good note, bring it here, drop it into one of the chats. What's up, Kylan?
So I have yeah. I'm sorry, guys. This is my chance to get quick answers without having to type out long message board posts. So I'm taking advantage of it.
Do it.
Let's see. Oh, so the one thing I was wondering is right now we have what's like thing, person, organization. I think the indexer only picks or only latches onto a few schema types. Is that going to change? I'm specifically asking because I've been working with this idea of lists, but when I put if I have like a JSON object atom, if I put the type as like, I think item list is the like official schema type for a list. There's like item list, and then the things inside of it are list items. When I do that with atoms right now, the indexer, it resolves as unknown. So is that going to change in the future? Are we ever going to be able to? Let me ask this way: what is the vision going forward with the types of atoms, or whatever, the schema types that will be supported? Like, will they be arbitrary, or will you whitelist, 20 or 100 types, or what's the strategy going forward?
So, good question, and this relates exactly what was presented at the beginning. So, all the IID and schema.org stuff is in those packages, and essentially what happens is the backend has no opinions. We're trying to make Intuition Core basically read from these packages and make them swappable. And so what that allows you to do is, yes, it should be very easy to add new schemas to support, to change how the backend interprets it. So as of today, you can easily add new schemas. The backend system will be able to infer that. What is the more complicated problem, and is something we want to solve for the community as well as ourselves, is the interpretation layer of that. So if you're using different schemas, that means you're using different data structures, which means you're ultimately potentially using like different triples. And so an example of this is, say I upload a song, that's great, that atom exists, but I want to use the app to do more ratings. So I use an aggregate rating triple, and 10 of my friends all rate this song. And so the backend system needs to know that the aggregate rating is associated with the music recording, and it can update the API response. And so the goal would be, if you want to add that aggregate rating schema to the backend system, we're name still in the works, but we're calling this the interpretation engine. And there are essentially three verticals in which you can interpret intuition. There's an authority, which is like you just declare certain wallets or certain servers that you trust. Another is market, so based off of how much deposits are in atoms or triples, you might interpret the chain differently. And finally, social, so like based off of your network and friends of friends. And so this interpretation engine, depending on what schemas you use and how you choose to interpret it, will shape the data response. And so the entire premise of Intuition Core is to allow developers to do that without having to think too deeply about the underlying pieces, but basically swap out a schema, decide what triples you want to support, and toggle on and off or add new packages. So that was a pretty detailed answer, but hopefully that did shed some light. And I just wanted to point out that is the core part of what we're trying to solve here with these packages and Intuition Core.
So if I were to create an atom with a type item list today, it would be supported in the sense that the name would show up, and the description and the image and the URL without issue.
Yes, if you've turned it on and you've run Intuition Core, whether it's you have enrichments, yes, you can do that today.
Okay. I'll follow up with you later. I think I'm not using Intuition Core, so I'll figure that out with you later.
Yeah, I recommend giving it a spin. It's worth it, especially the dashboard. I'm trying to pull up the dashboard right now so we can show it off. But Railway is down.
That'll be a good thing for all of our builders at some point. If you're not already using Intuition Core, we'll work with you to help you merge over.
Here we go.
How often have you guys been making? Oh, how often have you guys been? How often have you guys been? Let me just ask real quick. How often have you guys been making code changes to the Intuition RS repository?
Very little. That is getting deprecated, and there's not much being done there.
Right, and then you'll be replacing with what?
Intuition Core. So to show off what we got here, so this is so if you go to the Intuition Core, we have the backend system, but we also have this Explorer. And so what I'm showing off right now is all these atoms that have been minted off chain, and what you're seeing let me zoom in. One of these columns is the classification. So the backend is automatically picking up, it's a stack, it's a thing, it's a category, it's a product, it's a website, it's a video object. And so the backend is already identifying these things. And so the next step is deciding what rules. So if it picks up a podcast series, how do you want to enrich it? What data do you go get? Here we're showing we pulled from Spotify, we pulled from Music Brains, we pulled from Open Graph. And so this Explorer, I think, is a great way to visually see everything that I've just described, which is how is the system working? How is it interpreting stuff? You can see like social media, defined terms, stack. And so you can just follow this entire chain of like how things are coming together. So I definitely recommend jumping into the Explorer, tweaking the code if you want, asking your agent to add a new schema, like just go wild and see what you can come up with. But all the pieces are here. We're correctly like processing the data, and now it's just a matter for devs to kind of decide, hey, how do I want to show this? How do I want to interpret this stuff? So good app to go check out. And I'll drop it in the chat real quick if you guys want to use this link. And just quick, this is not connected to our primary testnet contract, so you won't see those atoms. It's an individual one.
This is really cool to see.
Yeah, cool. If there is no more questions too, I have another fun update we could go over.
Yeah, there's one question from MK Ultra, and I actually I want to ask this because I'd love to hear your answer, and then I'd maybe like to ask this to the rest of the team at some point, just to hear each person's individual answer. If you're a new builder and you want to be aligned with the most composable structures and predicates and formats, what's the first package that you should use from the GitHub or TLDR? Which packages are the most essential for a new builder to start with?
Yeah, good question. So a bit of a nuanced one. So, I'm presenting this stuff as like it always gets today, but like all these packages are in alpha. So there's kind of two trajectories, which is like use Intuition RS and just the thing object and go that route, and that works today. Or if you really want to be on like cutting edge and where we're going to be in the next month and a half, 2 months, is you want to go to the GitHub OX Intuition /packages. And then that's what I was showing off this morning. That's the best place. And then the forms. It's still very early, so like this stuff is new. We haven't quite got it in all of our documentation, but those packages and then the Unchained site has this. But hopefully over the next month or two, we are going to get in a much better place. It's going to be like broadcast on the primary sites. It's going to be out of alpha. But until that time, yeah, early hackers only.
Early hackers, head to the Intuition packages on GitHub. JP just shared a link to the GitHub in chat. I'm also sharing a link to the Unchained Intuition website, where you can learn a little bit about these packages in a more narrative and fun way. So what was the other thing, Kames, that you said you could show off or talk a little bit about?
The other fun update.
Yeah,
Let's do
we're
it.
dropping alpha?
We are dropping alpha. Indeed we are. This is public on our GitHub, but we have not announced it. So I think I might have briefly mentioned this last week, is we are working on a new curve for Intuition. And so what you're seeing here is a small internal demo that we have for that. But what I wanted to break down and just get people kind of ready for is this, what we're calling dynamic fee curve. And so what this is a fork of the core curve we have, where it's just 1-to-1, the very basic linear curve. But what we've added is an entirely new set of controls or toggles or primitives around fees and tiers. So what we're now introducing is the bonding curve is still going to have a 1-to-1 pricing. Every time you deposit, one trust, you get 1 share back. But we are increasing the amount of fees that get taken, but we as a protocol are not taking them. They go back to the users. And so on top of that, we also have tiers. So what you're seeing here is tier 0, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And each tier is going to take X amount of trust to get into. And so if I'm in tier 0, I deposited in that tier. Now I'm going to get all the fees that are generated from tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3. And so if you're in really early to a hot atom, you're going to get long-term benefits of fees both on volatility and every time a tier graduates. And so what we hope this unlocks is a couple of things. One, the curve will be much more rewarding for the average user. So right now our two curves are kind of extremes, where the base curve is, there's not a lot of upside, there's not a lot of risk, and the other one is there's a lot of volatility and you kind of have to time it perfectly. And so what we're hoping to do is kind of get right in the middle of that and have something that works really well for most of the time. And so we believe this curve does that, while incentivizing users to deposit more often because they're going to get fees from other users. So beyond just the technical too, what this also unlocks is a new product experience around tiers and gamification of creating atoms. So you can now gamify that, hey, as a user, I got into tier 1, I get certain social clout with that. Or, adding a fun animation when tier 2 is reached and it's like a big confetti box and tokens go everywhere. And so I just wanted to drop this a little bit because one, not only does this affect like some of the incentives around creating atoms, but this will also unlock other people who want to create markets for their atoms, and to do it in a way that's more interesting for those users. So we are starting the audit on this next week. We will have a couple weeks of audit and then fixing, and then the goal is to roll this out within the next month and a half, 2 months. So it's coming pretty quick and should change a lot of the incentives again around creating atoms. So just wanted to drop a little bit of that alpha.
That's super cool. Before you stop sharing your do me a favor, share it again, zoom in a little bit for me.
Yes, of course, I keep forgetting. Sorry.
I know, I always forget too. It's like I have this giant screen. I'm never working like from my MacBook or something, so I always forget. But yeah, this is actually this is alpha. This is big alpha. I think there in my mind, the way I imagine this is that it enables so many great things for the user. Like as a user, I'm so excited.
Yep. Yeah, rightfully. I mean, I hope so, right? Because this should give more of the early users of intuition and people who get atoms way bigger upside with way less risk. So yeah, I'm equally excited. I'm not just hyping this up because I work at Intuition. I generally believe this is a fun and interesting DeFi primitive. And yeah, one thing I will add is if people really want to get in the weeds, we still have not decided the exact fee structures we want. Like, is it 10% on the withdrawal and deposit? Do all the withdrawals go to the previous tier? So there's a lot of tweaking here. And if you are interested in getting into these financials with us, dive in, make some PR, or open up an issue on the GitHub. Tell us what you think. There's room for wiggle here. And if you want to experiment, please do.
Good thing for builders to maybe experiment with. If you have anything that this could be used on, click around, think about how this may affect the user experience on your dApp, and it may provide some feedback that you can push back to the team, chat more about it. But yeah, this is very cool. Like as a user, it just makes it even better to be early. It, like you said, less risk is very nice. Not to say that there's no risk at all, but slightly less risk, slightly more options for earning and finding upside in the long term.
Yep, exactly. Well said.
Cool. Well, we've got a few minutes left.
The alpha I got. Yep.
It's all the alpha that Kames has. Everyone in the audience, if you've had any questions along the way, now is your chance. Throw something out there. Of course, after the call ends, you can always ask questions at any point. You can drop them into chat. You can shoot a message to myself or Fung Bill or the mods. But now's a chance if you want some live answers, some answers right away. Very good opportunity. What's up, Kylan? I see you on mute.
Real quick, so if Intuition Core takes the place of the Intuition RS server, does that mean it's going to do, if I boot it up, it's going to do some sort of sync where it gets all the history logs or whatever from our blockchain, from Intuition mainnet, and then it'll index them into Postgres on its own or whatever?
Correct. It'll do that, and it'll do it much faster. What we also want to do is provide snapshots because it takes a long time to sync the chain. So what Intuition Core will also have is the ability to take a snapshot from anyone else and be able to basically hydrate your database with all the events previous, so you don't have to do that process because that is a long and tedious process to sync up. But yes, we will do it, and it'll be, I think, about 5 to 10x faster than what Intuition RS was.
That's great. That's awesome. Thank you. Intuition RS has been good, but it's not the most usable for community developers. Thank you.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah, I've only ever done like vibe code building in general, but even on Intuition, and just the idea there that you can take a snapshot from someone and be able to hydrate a lot easier and a lot quicker. That's really nice. Great thought there from you and the team.
Yeah, it should save time, make people's lives easier. It can honestly take anywhere from like half a day to a day, depending on your node. So, yeah, we got to make that frictionless.
Less cron jobs you have to have your agent going through to monitor. Let's see what's going on here. Our Chris just sent a message in the chat. I want to read through it real quick. So I don't know if this is a technical question or can we have a list per project on intuition writing to the knowledge graph?
Potentially, I don't know if I totally understand the question, but um, assuming you're posting some atoms on Intuition Knowledge Graph, those are in some custom shape, and then you want other apps to basically identify that this data is coming from your app. What I would say is similar to how we've done Intuition Identifier, where it's like, okay, I can infer based off this ISRC code, it's a song. We would need the same type of schema or rules for the atoms you're publishing. So like if you create an atom, maybe it has some Nexura specific thing. In that way, essentially how Intuition Core is set up is like if custom data patterns already exist, which they do. We have legacy. You need to be able to support that as well as these new ones. And so we want to make it so you can create your own plugins for your own data structures, which you could then make lists from. So I think that answers your question, which is like, yes, it can be done, but it'll just like take a little bit of work to make that happen.
There's the answer. Our Chris coming in with the last minute question. Love to see it. I knew you'd have something for us. So there is some possibility there. MK, so Nexura has a verified identity to issue attestations. That's a question between them, not a question for us. All right. Well, thank you everyone for showing up. I know looks like JP has an answer for Arcris there too that might point towards a solution. Thank you all for coming. Kylan as well. Thank you for all of your questions and all the hard work you've been doing on HiveMind and bringing those questions to us, whether it's through the chat or here in these calls. Don't ever feel bad. But seriously, even if it is just you, like ask every question that you've got. You know, that's what we're here for. Want to use the time best we can to get you those quick answers, and we're recording the calls as well, right? So when you're asking these questions, it's something that won't only benefit you in the immediate term, but also benefit some others in the long term. So and same goes for everyone else. Like don't ever feel bad. Please shoot us all the questions that you can think of. Really good call today. Lots of cool information. Thank you for the sneak peek, Kames, of some things that are to come. And thank you to all of you in the audience for hanging out, chatting with me, dropping some questions in the chat. Continue building. We got some really cool things coming. If you're building, I know we've had a little bit of chatter today about moving from Intuition RS onto Intuition Core. And if you have any questions about making that transition or need some help migrating, it's something you want to look into, feel free to reach out. Reach out to Zet at the Builders Guild. Reach out to any of us as well. Happy to help point you in the right directions. And if you're a new builder, that's your place to start. Go join the new frontier. Work with the new packages. And for everyone else, you are welcome to comment on any of these, help think through, add new predicates, add new categories if you think we're missing something. There's something for everyone to do here in the ecosystem. Thank you all for your time again today. Enjoyed hanging out with you guys. It's always a pleasure being here and facilitating these calls. Kames, Kylan, I will let you two get back to it. Everyone else in the audience, have a great rest of your day. Have a great upcoming weekend. and I will see you guys soon.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, everyone. G Trust.
All right. Thank you, Woods. Great sign out. Appreciate it.